What's going on, mobile gamers? Today I'm going to show you guys how to set up Emu Deck on your Asus Rog Ally so you can turn your handheld into the ultimate emulation device. So get ready to level up your gaming knowledge even more in 2024. Alright, mobile gamers, so what is Emu Deck? Well, to keep it simple, Emu Deck is an all-in-one solution to get your emulators for your Asus Rog Ally or any other Windows handheld PC easily, and it allows you to configure everything so quick that you'll be able to play games, on emulation at least, really quick. So it's a really beneficial tool for keeping your emulators up to date as well. Emulators like Yuzu or Citra or Dolphin, for example, these are Nintendo Switch, Nintendo 3DS, GameCube, and Wii emulators. They almost update daily. So instead of having to search out the emulator, Emu Deck is an all-in-one resource to navigate to update them all if you need to any time a new update comes out, kind of thing. So it's a very useful tool for all of that. It's also a very useful tool to just get everything up and running from the get-go. And that's what we're going to do. We're just going to get started with going to the download page at the top. We're going to go to Windows Beta. And again, this is the beta version of this application right now for our Windows handheld or Windows console. So just remember that there might be some bugs, there might be some issues with it. But I've played on it for about 3 days now and discovered it about 3 days ago. And it is really awesome. So I'm going to go to my downloads folder. I'm going to click on that Emu Deck CMD file. So this is going to open up a terminal. And don't be scared of this. If you've never seen this before, this is just your command prompt terminal that Windows runs. Slow DNS detected will pop up usually. So I'm going to click yes on that. I'm going to click yes on the Windows PowerShell option. And again, this is running off of Windows 11 on our Asus Rog Ally. If you're using another device, it might look a little bit different to you. But generally, everything's going to be about the same setup. I'm going to click continue. This is just looking to see if our app store is updated to the latest update, which ours is, which is our app installer. So I'm going to click the X button on the top right hand side and then wait for it to do its thing. Don't click any buttons, just wait for it to load as it's going to start loading this little blue icon right here at the top and installing all the data that we need to install. Now we're going to have to follow the prompts for installing all the other packages and drivers and stuff. So click install for this Winget Windows Manager resource package manager basically. Click close and let it download and install Git from GitHub. So Git is really important for this to work. So we're going to be installing Git for Windows, and this is going to install Git on our Asus Rog Ally as well. Now it's going to download Emu Deck. If your terminal crashes here and doesn't start loading anything, like mine is right now, then all you have to do is just go to the Emu Deck installer, which is right here. It's already downloaded it for us. And install it. It'll download right to the download directory. You can wait a couple more minutes. If it doesn't pop up with a little notification, that means that the installer hasn't started doing its thing. So that's okay. That does happen from time to time. I tested this on my Windows PC and my laptop, and it only happened, well, it happened today too, but it only happened the once. Sometimes it doesn't auto install. So we're just going to click on that and let it install. And now this window will pop up and it's going to start downloading and configuring everything to your device. Now, I'm going to show you a Micr SD card that we're going to be using for this installation. This is all up to preference because my device only has 512 gigabytes of internal storage right now. I'm going to be using a Lexar A2V30, as you can see here, the Lexar Play A2V30 Micr SD card. It's a 512 gigabyte. That's going to be where all of my games are stored. So when we jump into all the other videos in the playlist, all my games will be sitting on that Micr SD card for us to set up. I'm going to show you all that stuff as well. There's going to be a huge playlist. So don't forget to subscribe if you want to check out all the video playlists for every emulator that I'm going to be setting up with you guys, because I'm going to show you guys some other stuff that you can do with these emulators afterwards to get them configured the way that you want to. Maybe you don't like the default modes that Emu Deck has supplied for you. You can actually go in and just edit them yourself later on. Now again, this is as of the beta mode. Again, don't forget to subscribe. If you want to become a member, members get bonuses and perks And also extra entries to giveaways. Right now I'm running the Odin 2 Pro giveaway on the channel. If you don't know what that is, I put the video in the link description below for you to check out. Now, for this section right here, this is going to be setting up our device as is. I like to set it up as custom mode. If you want to just install every emulator and select easy mode, that's up to you. But I'm going to select custom mode. I'm going to click continue. Now we're going to be collecting the drive names. So now I don't have my Micr SD card in here yet, and I'm going to pop that in right now. So let's pop that in. Now our little Micr SD card symbol showed up at the bottom. That means that it's recognized. We're going to go back. We're going to click continue again. And I'm going to click on that D drive, which is my Micr SD card. If you don't know what drive it is, then go to your file manager. So I swiped up from the bottom, and you'll be able to see what drive it is at the left hand side of your screen. So mine is the SDXC drive right here, and it's a clear drive. It's a brand new SD card, so we're going to exit out of that. Make sure we select that D drive and click next. Now we're going to select our Asus Rog Ally. If you're using this for Windows, then go and select Windows PC. If you have an Neo or a Lenovo Legion Go, then go and select that. Of course, we're not doing this on Steam Deck. Steam Deck has a whole different setup. So click on Asus Rog Ally. Now this is going to give you the option to select all of your emulators. So I'm going to select Xenia. That's for Xbox 360. Flycast is for Dreamcast, and I'm going to check out Flycast. So basically, we're going to select Flycast. RetroArch, we really want to have RetroArch for sure. Make sure it's all checked marked as a white icon. MGBA is RetroArch for GBA. It looks like a GBA, so I'm sure you could figure that out. So we're going to click on MGBA. CMU and XEMU, I'm just going to leave those. Melon DS is DS. DuckStation is PlayStation. PSP. Prime Hack, I'm not sure what that is, so I'm going to uncheck that. PSX2 is PlayStation 2. We have PSX3 or RPCS3, which is PlayStation 3. Nintendo 3DS is Citra. Yuzu is Nintendo Switch. Dolphin is Nintendo Wii and GameCube. And Vita 3K is PS Vita. ScumVM, EXMU, CMU. If you guys want to go check those out and see what they are, I don't know what they are. MAME is arcade games, of course. I'm not going to do MAME because I don't really play any MAME games. So that's up to a preference as well. Click continue. Click continue again. Now this is going to set up our configurations. So if you want autosave for your Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Super Nintendo on, then turn it on. If you want it off, then turn it off. I'm going to turn mine to on. I'm going to skip the retro achievement section because I don't use retro achievements. If you want to install or enter your retro achievements username and password, then you can do that and then log in and then go next. I'm going to skip. Now, I don't like having the borders for some games, but I like them for others. So like Game Boy, for example, I like to have a square screen for Game Boy and then the borders. So that's just basically your bezels, or it's just a picture overlay to make it look like it's like a Game Boy or something kind of thing. So that's all that is. So I'm going to click continue and leave that on. Aspect ratios, this is all up to preference. You can switch back and forth, see what you like best. I like 3:2, 4:3, 16:9 for N64 and Dreamcast, 16:9 for GameCube. I don't want to put on my LCD shaders to make it look like a CRTC TV. So I'm going to leave all that to off, off, off. Now I'm going to only select Emulation Station and leave my Steam turned on. Now, if you don't have Steam, you can turn this off, which I'm going to actually turn this off because I don't use Steam for this anyways, and it just gets too much inside your Steam library if you have this as your front end. I like to use Emulation Station. It's a really good front end emulator, and I'm going to tell you what that is in a minute. Click continue. Now for your default theme for Emulation Station, I'm just going to select the default one right here, and I'm going to show you all that as well. Click next. And this is for setting up your resolutions for each of these emulators. I'm going to leave them as is. There's not much you really need to change. You can change it to 1080p for PS3 if you want to, but 720p looks great. It's a small screen. You don't really notice a huge difference between 720 and 1080p on the most part for smaller devices. Click next. Click finish. and let it do its thing. It's going to install Emu Deck, and it's also going to install all of the other emulators and everything. You'll see that little notification on the bottom there. This is all dependent on your Wi-Fi or your internet. I have my internet hardwired right now into this, so you can hardwire yours using a dock, a USB dongle like this right here. This is a different one that I have. This one's kind of finicky sometimes. It works, but when you start moving it around, it doesn't hold properly. So I just used my dock and the connector for my dock. So as you can see on the bottom right hand side, it's downloading RetroArch. RetroArch is the main emulation program basically for like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Game Boy, and Sega, and a whole bunch of others. Now just follow the prompts. If you have any other items that pop up like programs and stuff, click yes and just let them install, because certain things do need to be installed for the full installation of Emu Deck to work on your device. Alright, now that the installation is mostly done, this is just a little disclaimer to tell you, hey, if you're using Steam, this settings has to be set up. You can follow this little YouTube video on the right hand side. Otherwise, just click next, because we're not using the Steam ROM manager, so let's click skip for now. Now, this is our manage section for our emulators. This will allow us to update and install all of our emulators, our front end and everything. So if we go to our front end, for example, we can update the configuration by clicking update, and then that'll update any of the configurations for Emulation Station. We can reinstall and update it if we need to. If that is updated properly, we can just basically do it manually or do it all at once. Now, that's what this button is for up here. I like to just do it manually right now. I've noticed some issues with doing the update all, where it doesn't update it all properly in accordance to the beta version of this application. Not sure why. As like I said, like even updating manually sometimes doesn't fully update, but that's just part of the program itself not configuring properly. So like I said, if I click on this, it'll go through, reset the configurations. Sometimes it crashes and just doesn't. But that's just because we are still in, early stages of this. And these are just all manually updating right now. It's just, I keep closing it just because we're just waiting for that configuration file to actually go and update. And all those exclamation marks will be gone by the time it's done. So update configuration, as you can see, the Vita 3K didn't finish, and sometimes it just hangs while you're doing the auto update. So Xenia didn't finish either, so update configuration, just wait for it. And if you find any issues with any of these emulators, you can come back here and click on it. You can uninstall it and then reinstall it if you need to. And this also tells you if you need a BIOS for certain games, like PlayStation, for example. Now, we're going to be using DuckStation for PlayStation, but Sega Saturn, I'm going to show you that. I'm going to show you Sega CD, Nintendo DS. Nintendo DS needs a BIOS as well. Dreamcast needs a BIOS, and a whole bunch of other stuff. On the left-hand side, Emu Deck Store. This sometimes opens, sometimes it doesn't. This Emu Deck Store, sometimes you need to reload Emu Deck to actually show it. This is just homebrewed games and stuff. Quick reset. This allows you, if you have any issues whatsoever from your initial installation, to actually walk through this again and reset it all back up. Again, you don't need to do this right now. This is just in case something happens or you notice something's not working properly from the get-go. So that's not needed because this should work right off the hop. I haven't had any issues with setting this up on 2 of my PCs. I even set it up on my Asus Rog Ally and then uninstalled everything and cleared it out. And now we're reinstalling it again. So retro achievements, if you forgot to log in, you can just log back into it again. BIOS checker, this actually will check to see if any of those BIOSes are available. And they're not, because we haven't set anything up yet. And I have guides coming out for everything. The very first guide is going to be Yuzu. We're going to get Yuzu out of the way. And we're going to work our way down the list with Citra, all the Nintendo stuff, and then Sega, and then PlayStation. Probably PlayStation 2 will probably be the next one after Yuzu. I'm not sure yet. I haven't really scheduled those out yet. But we're going to go down the list, and I'm going to have all of these ready to go for you guys. This is just the basic generic setup. Now, again, what does this do for us? Well, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to go to our search bar. We exited out of Emu Deck. We're going to go to Emulation Station. As you can see, there's the app right there. I'm going to long press on this app. I'm going to pin it to my taskbar so that I have it down at the bottom, because Emulation Station is our basic default front end. So what we're going to do is we're going to just open it up for the first time. Nothing's going to load because we don't have any ROMs in our directories yet. So just let it search and do its thing. Now, make sure you have your gamepad mode to set to control mode so that you can actually navigate through here properly. Click A to quit. I'm going to show you where our ROMs are going to go in a second. So we're going to go to our Micr SD card in our folders, go to emulation and our ROMs, and then your corresponding ROMs are going to go into their folders. So I'm just going to show you this to close this little quick tutorial up. We're going to copy and paste a SNES ROM right into this directory. This is just a quick little tutorial on how to do this. I have retro games on my internal SD card or my internal storage right now. And I'm just going to copy over Donkey Kong Country, just like so. And yeah, I wanted to use just everything, touchscreen and everything, just so that you guys can see how easy it is to set everything up. If you want to use a mouse and keyboard, then go ahead. Now I'm going to close that out. I'm going to open up Emulation Station for the very first time again. It's going to search for all the games. It's going to automatically detect what type of game that is. I'm going to press A. I'm going to press A again on Donkey Kong Country. And there's our bezels on the right and left-hand side there. That's just basically making it look like it's a Super Nintendo. And we've loaded right in to the game emulator without having to do any crazy configurations or anything. We basically just copied our ROMs over and got the basic setup ready. Now, some emulators, you do have to get the BIOS files. I'm going to supply you guys with all the BIOS files and everything that you need to get this up and running, so that you don't have to have a headache and you can just go and play some Donkey Kong Country on your Asus, which is way more powerful than a Nintendo, or a Super Nintendo, that is. Have a nice day, guys. See you next time. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to follow along with all of the other guides that are coming out for this, because this is a really, 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 really awesome program, tool, thing to have for anybody that wants to play some emulation on their Asus Rog Ally or on their Windows.